So we're now moving on to our roundtable discussion. There were actually two agenda items. One was a cybersecurity discussion. We've already had that. We had that closed session. The other had to do with discipline, and that was really just an announcement to make that it had been moved to a future date.
Right.
So we've covered those two items. So if there's any other discussion from board members, we can do that now, or we can adjourn. Whatever is your pleasure.
Chairman, do you, just so it's clear, because I have never in my life had such confusion on a topic. Is it clear now what we're doing? Are they going to be added regularly or as needed, or what are we doing, Mr. Chairman?
As it relates to
The work session, these extended work sessions / roundtable / whatever we're calling them. I don't know why we can't get this together 6 months later.
well, we really the only difference between what we're doing here with the roundtables and the work session is that we have agreed to have more of a conversational approach.
Okay.
So we've agreed to invite the public to offer comments if they want to, much like we did with the science presentation we had in the auditorium. So really, that's the only difference. It's an extended work session where we have a more relaxed environment for more conversational type approach. But other than that, it's what happened along the way was this. When I first became board chair, the board comments were first, and the superintendent's part of the work session was second, and we weren't able to get through her piece of the work session, and oftentimes we had staff coming in and they would wait all day and they may not have enough. So we flipped that, and we moved the superintendent's part of the work session first so that she could better control her staff and we weren't wasting the time. With our part last, and then what I heard from board members was what we weren't getting through the things we wanted to talk about.
Right.
So we agreed to some sort of extension. We called it a roundtable. And then we talked about having it less formal. But that's really the only difference. So yes, we're planning on continuing. Any board member can add an item just by contacting Ms. Worthington, and we'll continue to have it.
I understood the concern was that it needed to be more staff-driven, not necessarily board-driven.
But it is the board part of the work session.
Right.
So you can, excuse me just one moment, Ms. Cunningham. This is the part that I've struggled with a little bit. We have always been able to offer comments and make comments and bring things up as part of the work session. Board members could always do that. As we do that, if it's not agended, nobody knows about it. So
Right.
other board members can't be prepared, staff can't be prepared. And so that created, in my opinion, a little bit of an awkward situation.
Okay.
But board members have always been able to add things to an agenda to talk about them. It's in our bylaws. So we certainly, and that's what I was saying earlier, to the extent that board members agree and can focus on something specific, we certainly would invite staff to come and talk to us. I don't think it's appropriate to have them prepare for everything that every board member wants to do, because that's going to be time consuming. Does that answer your question, Ms. Fortney?
I guess I'm just trying to understand.
Well, let me offer.
And I think, yes, just one moment.
Superintendent Burr, would you like to help me?
Ms. Cunningham?
Okay, so here's my take. I was sad at the last roundtable that was held in the auditorium that we had such great speakers and such great people there, and there was no staff represented. Period. I just don't think, how do you foster relationships with people around the state, people in those types of positions and the different, it happened to be about STEM, it happened to be, about our higher achieving students, call it what you will, but it's things that I think need to be addressed. How it gets started to me and whose idea it is should not preclude staff coming or not coming. Bottom line is how I feel. I feel like we should support our staff. We are one, not us and them. So I did not like that. I mean, in the beginning when we had the little round tables and we all kind of talked about a few things and whatever we need to get more information, okay. But when we have major presentations like that truly can impact our kids in such a positive light, I felt like we needed somebody, and I don't know who, to be here. So, as I said last time, I felt like the round tables our glorified, if you will, work session. So my question is, instead of having work session from 9 to 12, can we have it from 9 to 2? And then at the end of, however you put it, the end of
Extended work session.
extended work session, and then have staff or key staff that you want to be here. Somebody should be here. So if there's a presentation from a professor from Florida State or from
PTA.
UCF, pardon?
Or PTA.
Or
PTA could have been
PTA.
moved to a extended work session.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That, to me, would have had more merit there and maybe a greater discussion on the legislative priority. That's kind of what I'm saying, because that way, if key staff have to go, because they got to get out and do stuff in schools, I get that. But I don't know how you stop one and take a break like we did, have a quick something to eat, a cup of soup, and then move on. Something like that, to where it's not, we had a work session, now we're going to have a round table, because they're kind of the same thing, except we lose staff in the round table.
Ms. Townsend?
Well, you know,
And some board members.
well,
Yes,
well,
yes, ma'am.
I mean, I agree with that completely, and I think, I mean, but like, what I would say is, Sarah, like, Mrs. Bird or the staff is not gonna bring the Girl Scouts here. Like, that was your idea, and they got, because they gotta run, y'all have to run the district.
Right.
You know, that was a very enriching thing, you know, that we did. I think there's kind of a twofold purpose of these. One is, if one of us has a special thing that we want, we can probably schedule those independent of the work session. Just call it call it whatever you want. I mean, I think as a general rule, having the extended work session is fine, but I wouldn't have wanted the math and science thing to be an extended work session. It kind of needed to stand on its own, because it went for 3 hours and had lots of gadgetry and all that. I just want us to.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, the key is for us to be able to bring things that the staff really doesn't have time to think about from our point of view, that that we're interested in. Like that's there's no way we get the Girl Scouts here for a work session. And that's not anybody's fault. No one's against the Girl Scouts. It's just Sarah was thinking of it.
I see.
And that was the same thing with the math and science thing. And I think it's there was scheduling complexities with that, and that's all water under the bridge. I think what we just did was fantastic. I wish security being what it was, that I think they're probably best when we have a topic that we want to discuss.
Yes.
That's driven from us, and then maybe staff responds to that. On the other hand, I also think there is an element, if we don't have a topic, of the 5 or the 7 of us sitting here just talking to each other for an hour. Hey, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? There's some value in that too. Like it catches us up in ways that aren't illegal. If we're outside on the street, what are you hearing? That's real iffy. So to me, it's kind of a twofold thing. It's a let's catch up. What are we hearing out there? And then maybe 4 or 5 times a year, we have something very specific that one of the board members cares a lot about and wants to see discussed. So that's just my
Conversation with
suggestion.
you all in that
Right,
point.
right. And so
and
you're not
with
stuck
that-
having to come up with the topics for it either, right? I
Right.
mean,
That's a conversation with board. And I think, Lisa, you brought this up a couple of work sessions ago. If we're gonna do it, can we have a topic, which is basically what we did today?
Yes.
Staff will be in prepare for it,
Yes.
and they can come and do a full blown rather than you hitting 3 and 4 different things, not going deep enough. But if it's something of a conversation you want to have, you want to have this conversation today, and I'm like, we can have that closed doors, and we can just
Yes.
devote the time to it. And that there was your topic
right.
that you
Right.
chose. If it's something like you say 4 or 5 times a year, the board wants to get together just to discuss something among the board, then that's different. That's not for us to have to pull together.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing. And I think for us, and here's what I'll ask. I'm gonna ask the chair. If there are priorities from each of you, and I'll put it this way: if each of you, and that's Form B14, give us 2 priorities, then we can rank them, and then those can become topics that we can already start seeing. This is coming up. We want to talk about 3rd grade retention.
Mm-hmm.
We can do that in February. all right, at this point, what are you doing, summer? I mean, but if there's some things that are truly topics, you know, I don't know who had the discipline, if it was Lisa, if it was Billy that time, and then we can have a full-blown discussion around that. But I think that would give staff enough time now to really come in and prepare for it when we
And
know.
help understand.
Right.
Right.
And
I think that's very useful. And even if we brought in someone, like if we brought in,
yeah, maybe bring an additional
then they're going to
people.
work together. You
Right.
know, it might be helpful for the staff to learn, but
Yeah.
I think it's also good that the staff, all of the staff, doesn't sit here the whole time because you have.
Now you have that one person that can
Exactly.
bring in
Right.
their team and
Exactly.
additional people.
Yeah, I think that's
So-
good, and I want everybody to feel comfortable. It's not, you know, we are a team. This should be a team. This should
Yay.
be 5 people.
Right.
No
And
I in team.
So whatever we need to do to make board members comfortable, or you know, I'm sure I don't think I can make people comfortable, but whatever we can provide, you know, to so they understand what's happening. Because unfortunately, people do not watch these recorded sessions because what I hear back, the very little that I hear back, they've never watched them, or they would know what they were. And so I'm thinking if we make it a clear understanding, staff is going to be involved. Sometimes it will be married with outside support. We can schedule them as appropriate because if we learn something today about retention and you need to start talking about that in the spring, we schedule that learning session during that time. That would be, I mean, I think it would be effective.
Or
Wanting to
folks
learn.
watch every single thing. There's no in between.
So now you all have homework.
Right.
I can give you 2 right now.
No, email.
But I mean, I do.
Rank 'em.
I do think our comments. Where does the our comments section of a work session end and the roundtable discussion begin? It's kind of unclear.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't want to preclude us being able to chat each other up
Right.
for an hour after, because I think that's a helpful thing.
Sure.
I do think the best discussions are exactly what you've said, where we have some structure for them.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
you know,
The
let's.
chair and I talked about that at the strategic plan about
Right.
the time and how we look at the time. Can we, 'cause that way staff knows time too,
Right.
you know, and then we can look at the time.
Yeah, and so we basically have 2 types of meetings. We have our formal meetings where we vote on things, of course, and the superintendent essentially sets that agenda. I mean, we talk about it, but she sets that agenda because she's asking us to vote on things that she's bringing forward,
Right.
recommendations.
Right.
The work sessions and the roundtables are informational. They're strictly informational, and there are 2 parts to those: the superintendent's part and there's the board part. And the superintendent sets the agenda for her part. The question is, and she asked me, as we do our part, if for example you want to invite someone, that we set some time, a time on it. We need an hour and a half for this or an hour, or whatever,
Right.
so that her people
Yes.
can prepare for that. And I agree with that completely. But it shouldn't. I think the core of this is that some people believe that board members should not be adding items to an agenda, any agenda, number 1, and number 2, that we shouldn't be inviting people to come, that's strictly something the superintendent should do. And I personally disagree with that. I think that it's good for us. I think it's healthy. I think it's informational for us to invite folks so that we might want to hear from. And I think a board member should have the ability to do that. Say, I want to invite this person. If it flops, the other board members will tell you about it.
Right.
Right.
It'll be pretty
It'll be
obvious.
pretty obvious, and maybe then they won't be so likely to do something like that in the future.
But how do
But-
we get everybody to participate?
I don't know.
That's really,
Well,
I think it needs to be the superintendent's priority, or say that
Yeah,
she
right.
wants to see it.
So I think here's a start, okay. Oh, we have January coming,
Yep.
new year, new start.
We're gonna
Right.
pass out presents at
So-
Christmas.
yes, we are.
So
We'll
if
figure
we
something out.
can
I'm
get the
working on it.
topics, if everybody give me 2, and do you mind if Susan sends an email to all board members to list their top 2? And then, and if I get those,
But we may
But
not have right now, but go ahead.
Right.
I don't have some.
and you may not have them
I
right
don't.
now. You
I'm
may
happy.
say, I'll hold until whenever, and then we'll look at those.
I'll do 4.
No,
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 you
sir.
send me 4, I'm gonna select. You only
2
get
are
2.
mine and 2 are Lori's.
But then when those topics come out, if it's someone that's not here's topic,
Yes,
that's kind of giving the buy-in that it's a topic they know about, it's their topic, it's going
Got
to
it.
be discussed.
got it, okay,
So,
okay.
Now, are we talking
That's
about
just-
doing that for the roundtables or extended work
Just extend,
sessions?
like an
Extend-
extended work session,
call
that's
it-
what I'm
call it an
trying to
extended
an
say.
work
extended
session?
work
Okay.
session.
I just think you
Change
do.
the name, I guess.
I think a new start.
A new start, new name, new-
January, new
Extended work
structure.
session.
John,
structure.
John wants to
John
bless
Hill.
us with some.
I
The
just
7
wanna make an
effective daily
observation.
habits.
Tell us.
So the way it worked today, you had the presentation, you were all very pleased with it. At the very end, you said, do you have any other things we want to talk about? And the consensus was, I think we're done for today. That leaves you the flexibility to have that.
Yeah, we'll continue to do that, but again, I don't want this to
You're right.
preclude a board member from saying, hey, I would like to invite somebody to
Right,
come
correct.
and present something. I don't
Well,
want
I
us to
think,
preclude that from
yeah,
happening.
I think that's what Mr. Townsend said.
Right.
That's when the board, that's when you say, if you all want like the Girl Scouts and bring them in at that point. The topics when I present will be the topics the staff will bring in if they find someone from Polytech that they want to come and
Correct.
present. And then you say maybe like 4 times a year, you all might want to say, hey, we want to bring this in.
Right. Well, I mean,
That's what I heard. That's what I heard you
I
say.
think we give you top topics. We can also, I mean, that topic can overlap with someone we want to bring in. So you're prepared on the topic, and if there's a person who's a particular expert on that topic, then we've got great synergy to discuss. I mean, I think it's. I think we have to have a certain degree of trust with each other that we're not out here to show each other off, you know, and you know, I think that, yeah, I mean, let's, I mean, I like the idea of giving you topics, and if one of those topics happens to be a person from the outside who is gonna, then we should just specify that with
Right.
them and see, and we'll work that out.
Because maybe staff has a relationship with
Right.
that person
Correct,
that
right.
we don't
Exactly.
know.
Right.
Because
It's a
I,
different organization.
and then you might go, hey,
Right.
Joe, can you get some?
It could
Yes.
be colleges, it could
And it would
be
be
Yes.
a great, that's what I was thinking, a great way,
Yes.
you know, talk about community, you want
Yes.
community involved.
the
Yes.
colleges.
That's how you would connect them.
For instance, we can have our friend from DOE come back. and
Who's our
talk to
friend
us.
from
The
DOE?
gal that was
It's a
sitting there.
new start.
So,
It's a new
All
start.
right, you have to have a
A
whip
new
over
year.
there, and when he misbehaves, you just gotta go. Remember, like I
They said,
said,
how do we
Frank-
try to
use
make
them on
everybody?
proximity.
Okay, are we,
So,
are we
well-
concluded?
well, I
Y'all
just-
are
I-
leaving and the chair's not
I'm sorry,
dismissed
I'm
yet.
I just want to be very clear that we're still going to have the work sessions like we did before, but we will also have now extended work sessions with
Right.
special topics on them.
You don't have
Right,
to really call
okay.
it that, but
Right,
yeah.
right, and
That
we're
are
gonna
sent
Oh.
submit.
I'm with you. We're just going to have work
Iris?
sessions.
That's it. It's
No
just an
more,
extended.
no more.
It could be an extended
Well,
work
but
session.
here's the thing. We
If needed.
So hung up on what we call it.
we agreed
I don't care.
we agreed
I don't
to
either.
allow for
It's
more
an
public
unfunded
participation and
Right.
more of a.
Right,
So we got to be able to
more of a dialogue.
more of a dialogue. So
Yes.
I think that's why we still need
The after-
another
Well,
topic.
and after
and maybe
lunch.
two, like we give
Right.
topics, and maybe a couple of times a year we turn the work session into something where we just listen
You
to
can.
the
Exactly,
You can.
public. But I mean that
right.
you know, some you know, like maybe once a quarter.
Quarter.
That's what the work set. That's what the round
I
table
think
is.
being able to plan for that would help the superintendent.
Correct,
Right,
and
right.
staff.
Right. So
Bring it
Mr. Chair, one thing I would mention to you is there are only two kinds of lawful gatherings of the school board. One is a school board meeting, the other is, turns out there's only one kind of lawful gathering of the school
Right.
board.
Correct.
It doesn't matter what you call it. There's
Right.
nothing in the statute that uses the term work session. That's a term we made up.
Right.
There's nothing in the statute that
In-
talks about
in-
roundtable. It's a term we made up.
Right.
Whatever it is, it's gonna be a meeting of the school board. It's gonna be noticed. There's gonna be an agenda. There's gonna be minutes.
And you'll have to excuse me. I'm just trying to understand my role because my instructions for my colleagues were we want open discussion, and now what I'm hearing is we want open discussion, but only maybe 3 or 4 times a year. With
No, they'll always
No.
be open
Oh,
discussion.
no. I'm talking about having the public come in and not limit the because during our work sessions we don't invite the public to speak.
Right.
But that's self-imposed.
Yeah.
but we did during the for the
For the
guy.
and we kind of feel it out. I mean, like
Right, I
mean,
don't think
and-
it's a
All right,
hard
so
fast
we're saying
rule.
that during a
Yeah.
work session it's
And as
okay
long
if
as
we
we
invite public
notice
to
that,
come.
Yeah, let's just be
Yeah.
let's
So
just be
people can plan.
flexible and see what happens. I mean,
Okay.
I mean,
Yes.
you're very good on
Yeah.
your feet.
Well,
as a chair.
we you know there have been
Even 9
times
o'clock.
when folks have wanted to speak and
We'll
I've
sit
said
here
no, we
till
don't do that
5.
during work session.
I
But-
I
think
like the
there's-
first idea.
If you're okay with
was
us
the first
doing that,
idea?
then that's fine with me.
When you say
I'm
go
just trying to
to
understand
take a
what
break
your
for lunch,
expectations
come
are.
back.
Oh, okay.
I think
Yeah.
you're a good judge.
Because it's more
judgment
structured.
as a chair.
You're right.
Thank you.
Susan, do you feel comfortable enough to be able to describe this in words for the people that are not here?
I-
I don't think we know what we just did, but
No.
okay, we're gonna
We're
try
gonna
it.
try it, whatever it is.
Okay, thank you. Are we adjourned?
Just
Any
mention.
other comments?
No, I
Well,
Meeting-
if you
meeting
were
adjourned.
NYP or IB.